Welcome back. Were you one of the first to put on your dancing shoes and kick up your feet at midnight when restrictions were lifted last weekend? Are you someone who's dreading the idea of public spaces without mandatory masks? Maybe you find yourself somewhere in between. In this week's edition of Get Psyched with Dr. Janine, we'll discuss tips for coping with our newest stage of reopening and maybe a little bit of stage fright too. Hi, Dr. Hubbard.
Hi. You nailed it on the head. I think everybody's feeling just a swirl of emotions.
Yeah, and we're kind of seeing it today because we know that people are, out and about enjoying the regatta, and we're seeing some, no masking outside, which, as we all know, is perfectly fine. But how are people coping with these changes right now?
Well, at the moment, we're seeing the full spectrum. We're seeing people who cannot wait and are literally kicking off their dancing shoes at midnight. We have some of people who are, cautiously optimistic, looking forward to some things, but worried about how it's going to play out. And we do have a percentage of the population who are just terrified and really worried about any kind of easing of restrictions. And a lot of that has to do with what your personal experiences have been. If you're someone who has immune-compromised members of your family or unvaccinated children, or are you a business owner who has lost a huge amount of finances over the year and you're looking forward to being at full capacity, or maybe you're someone who's been waiting for that wedding. It really depends on your personal circumstances.
So for those who are feeling nervous, what are some coping strategies?
First thing is set boundaries. Knowing that those can change, it might be different in a week or two, but very respectfully with your friends and family say, look, this is what I'm comfortable with. Happy to have you over to my house if you're fully vaccinated, or set some boundaries about visits to the backyard. But set those in a respectful way to make yourself feel comfortable. Then the next thing is knowing your own coping style. I like to use the analogy of getting in a swimming pool. Think about things that you've been anxious about before. Are you someone who just clenches up, takes the plunge, and jumps in the pool deep end? Or are you someone who eases your toes in bit by bit by bit? Do the same thing with the increased restrictions. Either saying, yeah, I'm going for it, I'm going to something that I'm nervous about, and I'm just going to get through it. Or pick your battles, pick little things, make little milestones in terms of increased comfort and increased exposure to things that you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, because before I let you go, I just want to ask you, I know that there's a little bit of judgment that exists around there about, where people find themselves on this spectrum of mask and no mask. And so when some people might choose to forego the mask, how do we navigate that carefully?
What I would ask is, over the next little while, guys, we don't know other people's circumstances. Everyone is going to cope with this next period differently. And the more respectful we can be of each other, and knowing that everyone is doing what is most comfortable for them, make your own choices. So long as anxiety isn't paralyzing you from moving forward, move at your own pace and be respectful that everyone's pace is going to look different.
It sounds all well and fair, and it's, of course, so long as we follow in the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Fitzgerald's guidelines, then I think we're ready to go. Thanks so much for being here once again this evening.
Thanks, Jody.